Alrighty then, we are back with another Gen Xish episode of the Smart Girl Politics podcast. I'm Teri Christoph, coming at you from lovely Northern Virginia, chatting with Fingers Malloy as always, who is somewhere deep. I said deep in the bowels last time, and you didn't like that.
Jeez.
Deep in the heartland of America, in the most American of places, Indiana.
You East Coast elitist.
I know.
It's terrible what you think of the heartland. The crossroads of America.
Crossroads of America. Where apparently it's pretty nice. It's not as nice as it's been raining and cold here in the DC metropolitan. Well, I don't know if I'm in the metropolitan area, but I'm close enough.
It's beautiful here today.
It's
I'm sitting outside,
there.
smoking a cigar, having an adult beverage, talking to you. My daughter just finished giving me a haircut. It's
How'd
the
that
16-year-old.
go?
She gave me a mohawk, and then she insisted, the front of my hair, I'm getting a good Kardashian streak going. The Robert Kardashian streak, the white.
The
Yeah.
skunk.
Yeah, the skunk streak.
Yeah, my mom has one.
Oh, well, so the daughter insisted on dyeing it purple. So I have a purple streak in my hair now.
You've never really gone for the colors before, though.
Oh, back in the day I did.
All right, but not in like the last 11-ish years, right?
No, not post Tea Party. No, I have not.
Or even during Tea Party. Did you have colors during the Tea Party years?
Yes,
How did I miss
blonde.
that?
Blonde. 1 point, and before the Tea Party, I had a friend. She called herself a beauty school dropout. Apparently that's a Grease reference.
Why, yes, it is.
And she dyed it 5 different colors, so that was cool. But
Well, then you're gonna have to put a picture up on the Facebooks.
oh, I'm sure it's out there somewhere. It's on Google. Just Google Fingers Malloy images. It'll be there. I'm sure people are fascinated with my hair color.
Hey,
So,
before we get too far into this, I want to mention that BetterHelp with a P, HELP.com is our sponsor again this week.
nice.
Yeah, that's excellent. How's your week been? How's your corona-filled lifestyle?
Well, I know not everyone likes the NFL, but I've been pretty excited that there was some sort of sporting event this week. So I watched the NFL draft and my pathetic Detroit Lions, because if you're a Detroit Lions fan, the NFL draft is your Super Bowl. And we have been talking for a month and a half that the Lions would be trading back and acquiring more picks because they need a lot of help.
So they were 3?
They had the 3rd overall pick,
Behind
right?
my Redskins.
Yes, another fantastic franchise.
A great owner. It just starts with the owner and it goes all the way down. It's just top notch.
Yeah, you basically have a younger version of our owner. Congratulations. You're not going to win another Super Bowl in a lifetime.
I know, but I was around for the ones that we did, and they were great.
Oh, I bet.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have one playoff win in my life. That's it for my Lions, and that was 1992. So
Well, is that the season of 92?
no, it was the 91 season, but the playoff win was in January of 92.
So is that the year that the Redskins won, though?
Yeah.
Super Bowl? Yeah.
The
that
Lions-
was a good one. That was a nice one.
Yeah, the Lions, they had a home playoff game, and they trounced the Dallas Cowboys, and then they went into
That's
RFK.
always good.
Yes, and then they went into RFK and got dismantled by the
Oh.
Redskins.
Oh, I loved RFK Stadium. That was a great stadium. Right by the river. What a great stadium.
It's still there, isn't it? Don't they have soccer games or something?
No, I think it's gone now. There's this fancy new field for the soccer team called Audi Field,
Oh, fancy.
which is where the XFL was playing before. I guess I don't think they survived. Did they? The XFL, the most recent.
It's not looking good thanks
Yeah.
to the coronavirus. And it's really a shame because, listen, to me, bad football was better than no football at all. So I actually enjoyed the original XFL because it was better than no football at all. But this brand of football the XFL came out with was actually halfway decent. But I don't know if they're going to survive. They went into bankruptcy, and there's no word as
That's too
to-
bad. That's one of
Yeah.
those, because it seemed like it might survive for a few seasons at least. It was
Yes.
doing really well in DC.
Well, yeah, they're craving football in DC,
We
right?
are. When are we going to see some football? Now, I like most big events, I just followed along on Twitter to see what happened because I don't ever watch the actual events. So I didn't see what the setup was with the draft. Obviously, with coronavirus, they were not going to all meet in wherever. Is it Las Vegas where they were going to meet
Yes.
this year? So it's everybody kind of isolated in their own little space, and is that how it worked?
Well, it wasn't even teams isolating themselves. It was individuals isolating themselves. So they had Zoom, which everybody's Zooming now, and I'm convinced that 95% of all Zoom meetings now are just friends getting together to drink. But
I believe
that's
that is correct. Yes.
but they had the Zoom feeds of different teams where they would have a head coach at his home and the general manager at his home. And that's how they would go from team to team. And then they had 60 players with webcams set up where they would look into each of their homes to see.
Can you imagine producing that?
Oh, what a
Nightmare.
mess. Yeah, ESPN did a fairly good job with it. They had some tech glitches, obviously, which is to be expected when you're doing something like this for the first time. But overall, it was an impressive broadcast, but it wasn't an exciting draft because so many of these general managers and coaches, they didn't get an opportunity to really, after the combine, meet with these players, and if they had some injury questions, the teams weren't able to have their team doctors look at the players, so there wasn't a lot of risk taking, and there wasn't really there weren't many trades, especially in the first round. Everybody was expecting, like I said, the Lions to move down and a couple other teams to try to move up, and I think there was only one trade in the first round, maybe two trades. But everybody just kind of played it safe because they couldn't, in the age of coronavirus, they couldn't do what they normally would do leading up to the draft.
Did they drag it out like they normally do? So the Redskins were second, and everybody knew that whoever that Joe Burrows guy was going to go first.
Yeah.
But I was like waiting, like what are the Redskins going to do? Because everybody thought they knew what the Redskins were going to do, but there was always the chance that they would trade away their second pick and get numerous other higher round ones or lower round or whatever you want to call them. So I'm waiting there, and people are like, the Redskins have put their pick in, and ESPN's just sort of dicking around. So were they dragging it out like that, like trying to get is it 15
yes.
minutes between announcements or something?
I believe it was 10 minutes.
Okay.
They really sped it up. But even at that, every team, it seemed like, went down to the wire, or the pick was in 3-4 minutes in, and like you said, ESPN would keep talking and talking and talking. So the draft, between commercials and of course they have the feel good moments where they have a kid from St. Jude's Hospital, yes, and first responders and our military getting involved in the draft. I'm pretty sure it didn't end until midnight last what was it, Thursday night.
Is that just the first round?
That's just the first round.
Yeah.
And then Friday, they started that an hour earlier. And I believe Friday was the second and third round. And then 4 through 7 went on Saturday. Yeah,
Who cares? So are there I guess there's the chance that there's poor guys waiting to be drafted that are sitting on the Zoom waiting for that sucks.
The Tom Brady. But the most interesting thing that happened in the draft in the first round was, and it's amazing, we're turning this into sports talk radio.
That's all I know. I know way more about it than politics.
But the Green Bay Packers traded up in the first round to draft a quarterback.
I saw that.
So no word yet on Aaron Rodgers' response to that, but he cannot be happy because they had not drafted a skilled position player on offense in the first round in 15 years. And they finally do it, and it's a quarterback to take his place someday. So he's looking around.
Yeah, he can't be happy, but how old is he? He's got to be 32?
36.
30? Yeah, okay. All right. Then why would you get mad about that?
Well, I think you get mad about it because they went to the NFC Championship game last year, and they desperately need weapons on offense. And so, being that they have not really helped him in the draft, in recent years. I'm sure he's probably thinking to himself, I've been sitting here waiting for you guys to draft me some help on offense, and you haven't done it. And now you had a year where there were plenty of wide receivers in the first round that had a lot of talent. And instead of helping me out and trying to find a replacement for me, either further down in the draft that may take a little bit more time to develop, you trade up in the first round and grab a quarterback. I could see where he would be awfully ticked, but he gets to go home to his huge mansion, and he's dating Danica Patrick, so life isn't all that
He's
bad.
He's a cutie. He's cute. But Tom Brady, would he get some sort of big offensive lineman too?
Yes.
So he
got an offensive lineman, and then his buddy Gronk got traded.
Tide Pods. You ever see a stupid commercial? Tide Pods.
No.
Oh, God. I want to not like him because he's kind of adorable, but he's kind of stupid. And I don't know. But he did a Tide Pods commercial a couple years back. Tide Pods.
Oh, no.
He's so stupid. Tide Pods.
I missed that. But I'll take your word for it.
He's not smart. So you seem to maybe be more into the NFL draft than in previous years, or are you always this into the NFL draft?
I'm always this interested in the NFL draft. The only thing that stinks is, since it's fashionable to bash Roger Goodell, deservedly so, by the way. Listen, as a Lions fan, like I said, this is our Super Bowl, the draft.
It's all downhill from here.
Yeah, it's all downhill from here. This is when we're at our most optimistic. So back in the day, we used to, because the draft was on a Saturday and a Sunday and it would start at noon, we would get a keg of beer and we'd barbecue all day and we'd be draft nerds watching the draft. And now Roger Goodell moved the draft to where it's on prime time on a weeknight, and it stinks. So it's not as enjoyable as it used to be, but
still, it's also not as fun because you can't bring your top draft pick in and give him his jersey and all those fun things.
Yes.
He'll never see his when will he see his new teammates?
I mean, if you're being optimistic, June mini camp, but they may not.
Yeah.
It may be training camp, and that's
football.
I think there's going to be football. The question is, how will it look? I think it's going to be very interesting. I think you're going to see fans watching football games, social distancing in sports bars, watching games in empty stadiums with no fans.
How weird is that?
Yeah, it's really going to be bizarre when you think about, we have two lousy teams, the Redskins and the Lions, but home field advantage is so important in the NFL. And you look at teams like Seattle and Kansas City who have really loud crowds, and the opposing team has to worry about dealing with the crowd noise. And you've just taken that away to where it's almost going to feel like a neutral site game. There won't be any crowd noise for the opposing team to deal with. I'm going to be very curious to see. I don't know if it's going to be possible for them to, at some point, they're going to want to reintroduce fans if they'll be able to do it. But man, talk about a huge advantage for some teams. Say if they have more of their away games at the beginning of the season, and they play in empty stadiums, and then they decide they're going to start letting fans in like week 7.
Yeah.
And say you've already played 5 of your away games or something. It's going to be a huge advantage for some teams. So, but I think that's going to be a situation where they would just say, suck it up, Buttercup. We're going to be so happy to be able to have fans back in the stadium that you're just going to have to deal with it.
Well, here's my 2 thoughts on that. Number 1, it's almost always going to be to Tom Brady's advantage because everything in life is always to Tom Brady's advantage. So if there is a team out there, it's going to be Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? And number 2, the Redskins are well known for always having an away game because there's so few people that are coveting season tickets for Redskins games that, especially when they're playing the Eagles or the Giants, those fans will take over the stadium. So they almost never have a home field advantage. So it might actually be to their, there might actually be some advantages to the Redskins to not have a crowd because it is so overwhelmingly not their crowd, even at home. That's how well it's been going here in the DC area.
I've spent many a weekend in DC, as you know, going to conferences and, visiting people. And there have been times where I've thought about going to a Redskins game because you could get tickets in the aftermarket for like $7 a seat.
Oh, heck yeah.
But from what everyone tells me about FedEx Field, it's impossible to get to.
It's rough. Yeah, I mean, it's very hard. There's no public transportation other than maybe buses, and they did not put in a lot of parking. So that's why RFK was great, because it was near Metro, so you could there's a couple different Metros, I think, so you could either drive or take the Metro. It's not that way with FedEx Field, and they have shuttles. You can park at like this old mall that doesn't exist. It's just, It's not a great experience. It's not a great field. So,
well, why did they build it in Landover? Because the land was cheap?
Probably they got some deal from Maryland, and it was done by Jack Kent Cooke, who was the owner before the fabulous Dan Snyder bought the team. And every once in a while they talk about relocating it over here into Virginia, where I am, and that would kind of not be great either. Their practice facility is not far from here, so every once in a while we get to see some Redskins. Hanging out at Moe's Mexican Grill or whatever. But yeah, it's fun. It's great. I don't know. It's not a good stadium. Unlike most other stadiums are, like, Dallas is the big nemesis, and their stadium is just like this thing of wonder. It's like a natural wonder or an unnatural
Jerry's
wonder.
World.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair. So this is the week then that we've gotten so bored that all we can talk about is football.
Well, I mean, really, you're seeing states talk about opening everything back up, maybe on a incrementally opening things up. Georgia, I mean, they're talking about really opening things up, aren't they, Terry? I mean,
there are, and there's little localities here and there that will open up barbershops and hair salons and spas and things like that, which getting to be an essential service. What are your thoughts? We talked a little bit last week because Michigan had done one of the first big protests, and now they seem to be a thing. Definitely here in Virginia, there was a big protest in the Capitol about reopening, and it seems to be gaining steam. And then there's counter protests. People show up, and they supposedly are health professionals who are, they show up in full protective
they're
gear.
Wearing scrubs, Terry, so
yeah,
they must be medical professionals. Not just anybody can get scrubs.
No,
right?
no, those are really hard to find.
Right.
And they're standing there like they're in Tiananmen Square. They're up against the tanks, and you're not going through me, and don't make me sick. And I don't think probably these are real protesters. I think there is a chance that some of them have been paid or are, have some nefarious other agenda that they're trying to push. But it is frustrating to me because it's you can't be in favor of keeping our economy healthy without wanting to kill people. Like, there's no you can't be someone that wants everyone to stay safe and healthy and take the reasonable precautions, and at the same time be somebody that wants to see the economy reopen and things that can reopen. Like, there's no middle ground. You have to be one or the other. You have to shut everything down until everybody can be healthy, or you open everything up. And I don't think that's really what people who are saying reopen want. I don't think they don't want to lift every restriction. I think everybody is pretty reasonable about it. There's always some loony that's out there spouting something stupid, but I'm frustrated by it, and maybe I shouldn't use social media as a gauge, but right now there's not a whole lot of other social situations that you can gauge what's going on out there. But it seems to me like the reaction to these protests is, oh, these dumb Trumpkins, they just want everyone to die. And where are you at? Where do you fall on this? Because that seems to be, I think, the biggest news of the week would be the amount of pushback, because people are crumbling. They're getting sick of it.
You're asking me if I want everyone to die?
Where is there a reasonable way? What is your thought about the protest? The protests that want to reopen things.
I think everything. That the protest is a natural reaction, and a pushback to the changing of a narrative. And the narrative at the beginning, the messaging was we need to flatten the curve. We are doing this on the short term to make sure that our hospitals, our healthcare infrastructure, our healthcare professionals are not overwhelmed. And somewhere along the way, it turned from we're trying to flatten the curve to many people, particularly on the left, seem to be running around saying, well, we need to keep everything closed until we get a vaccine. And it's like, well, where did that come from?
Because
there's
that's
been
18 months away. That's a long way away.
Yeah, listen, there have been several experts who have said trying to stop this is like trying to stop the wind. It's people are going to get this. The whole reason that we did that initial kind of stay at home wave of orders was we didn't want our healthcare professionals overwhelmed. They didn't have all the proper PPE they needed. They didn't have the ventilators.
Yeah.
Now that we're seeing the PPE come out, now we're seeing the ventilators being produced. We need to start looking into opening the economy back up. And when you have people, and I keep going back to Michigan because I'm very familiar with the state of Michigan, having been born and raised there. You have Detroit, which was a huge hot spot that had more deaths for a long time and probably still does than the city of Chicago, even though Chicago was over 3 times the size of Detroit. You have counties in Michigan that for a long period, up till last week, had 0 confirmed cases of the coronavirus. You're telling business owners in small towns, in counties with no confirmed cases of the coronavirus that they need to be treated just like Detroit. This one-size-fits-all mentality when it comes to the coronavirus prevention, and you're seeing pushback on that, and for good reason, because it doesn't seem fair to treat everyone the same and have this one-size-fits-all mentality. So I am of the opinion, Teri, that it's time to open things up, but do it in a responsible way. And I think that has been a problem as far as messaging goes with the pro-economy people. They have been going to these protests and not social distancing. There's no masks. So the other side can point and say, see, these people either think that this whole thing is a conspiracy or they're not taking the virus seriously. I think that the pro-economy people who want to see our economy taken out of this government-induced coma, there's been some poor messaging by some of the protesters. And that needs to change, because if we're going to reopen the economy, we still need to practice social distancing and protect the people who have their immune systems compromised and the elderly. So that's where I'm at.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly with that. And one of the things that does frustrate me about a lot of politicians and people that have big platforms is the lack of how much talk, or even any talk, there is about the other prices that are being paid. Like I think I've mentioned before that Rush Limbaugh said several weeks ago, it's not the economy versus lives, it's lives versus lives. There are people that will commit suicide because they're so frustrated and so angry, and just, you're having your way of life completely changed will take a toll on you. There's domestic abuse, things that are going to get worse, and there are diseases that are going to go undetected because people can't go and visit their doctor. There's so many other things that can happen that is live. So I don't ever want to make it sound like who cares about who gets coronavirus and dies? I don't care about that at all. Like I said, my mother has not left her house probably in 2.5 months because she was a public health nurse, and she saw this coming a long way off, and she's 86. 86, that is correct. Born in 33, so she's 86 right now. So, I mean, I understand what they are, and I think that, when we do reopen, it's probably going to be very limited access to my mom for a long time because she's not ready to go. She would like to stick around a little while longer. but there are other consequences. There's other lives that are being. So how can you say that someone with coronavirus, their life is worth more than somebody who is at home right now not realizing they have cancer because they can't get to their doctor or thinks they might and it's not diagnosed. It does go back to framing arguments, and the right has never been really good at it, and the left isn't great at it. They're just great at being angry and showing lots of emotion about it, whereas we tried to be a little bit more, let's use the facts. We'll use facts. But that's where I'm at, and I agree. You could... The protesters maybe could use a little more protective gear to make their case look a little better, that they're more serious about precautions and things like that. But there's the untold cost. There's not just people who are losing their livelihood, that's for sure. And there's a ton of them by the looks of the unemployment numbers. But
right.
There's also people that are just, there's things going on inside houses right now that are very, very serious. And because we can't see it, because nobody's tracking those numbers, it's not as important as that. And I think that even Trump could do a better job at talking about that.
Oh, isn't that the truth? I mean, listen, it's rare that I criticize the president, and it's not because I don't have disagreements with how he handles things. I do, but I feel like there are plenty of outlets where people can find places who criticize the president of the United States, and I don't need to pile on. But the messaging has not always been stellar coming from the White House. I feel like there needs to be an assessment by these groups. I think it was the Michigan Conservative Coalition that came up with that at Operation Gridlock in Michigan. Groups that are having these protests. It's like, what are you trying to do? I understand the emotional reaction to some of these restrictions and these executive orders where you just want to show up with torches and pitchforks at the State House. But what is your mission? Is it to vent your frustrations, or is it to change the hearts and minds of your fellow citizens? And I think that cooler heads need to prevail, and you need to think of ways to change people's minds. And if you are protesting and it's clear that you're not, it appears as though you're not taking the virus seriously, that you're six inches away from a fellow protester and nobody's wearing masks, I don't think you're going to be swaying too many people on your side, and many people are going to be thinking, okay, once we do reopen this, if these people get their wishes, they aren't going to practice social distancing, and they are not going to take the threat of this virus seriously moving forward.
Well, yeah, I think that's a good point. And then these protests were really supposed to be stay in your car kind of thing. But I think people, they want their voice to be heard. So they get out of the car and they congregate and they don't take the precautions. And that's perfectly fine. If they want to take that risk, I don't really care if you want to risk your own health. But don't risk somebody else's. That's kind of, where your freedom ends is where someone else's begins. And if you want to be sick, that's fine. And I honestly think that is fine. If you think that you're going to be okay and you can get the immunity from being, that's completely legit to me. I don't think there's a way to say we can 100% stop this from passing around, because there isn't. And when places start reopening, there's going to be spikes again in it, but maybe we're more prepared. Yeah, I agree. I think stay in your car maybe, but keep it going. I do. I think it's getting attention, and I think it's a much needed thing. And we've heard for weeks now the number of, the smartest people in the room talking about how surprised they are at how easily people just are listening to the government and not pushing back. Of course there's going to be pushback. We're all waiting to see what was going to happen, but we're at that point where, yeah, we need some economy going here again, and it would be nice to go somewhere. I mean, I had my son's birthday yesterday, my daughter's birthday tomorrow, and we can do not that, you're playing the smallest violin for me, I understand, but it's kind of like, oh man, I mean, like, it would be nice to go to at least a park or something to just do something different than looking around at each other inside our houses. So Oh, well, I guess we'll see. But it is a great time for us to talk about our sponsor, BetterHelp. And that's BetterHelp.com, because they are, as you know, Fingers, a telemedicine option for counseling. I guess medicine's not the word. Telecounseling might be a better thing. And they are around here at the right time, because I know I have somebody personal in my life who really needs the service, and I'm excited to get this person actually hooked up, because when you're at home, there's not just the anxieties of, wow, I don't have as many hours at my job, and how am I going to pay my bills? But it also, you have a lot of time to think about things. And honestly, I know this personally, like the more time you have to think about it, the deeper hole you can dig yourself in. You can think about things that happened 10 years ago that still upset you. And I think it's very easy. It's kind of like, your entertainment is, wow, I'm going to spend a lot of time thinking about the things that are bothering me. So I have someone close to me that has found themselves in that situation where not only are they stressed about not being able to work and get enough money to pay their bills, but they're also thinking about some things from their past that they haven't dealt with, and they're springing up for whatever reason. I guess anxiety just begets more anxiety. So BetterHelp is perfect for somebody that finds themselves in that situation, because, you don't need to suffer. There is something like this. You can start communicating with a counselor in a very private environment within 24 hours. You sign up. And you can, like I said, you can talk with someone within 24 hours. And if they are not the person for you, the counselor for you, you can get another one. If just all you have to do is request it. So you find that person that you are comfortable talking with. And they are licensed professionals who have a ton of experience in depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, sleeping, family conflict, all the things that are really exacerbated right now just because of the isolation. And it's available worldwide, and it is affordable and convenient. And you can go to their website at betterhelp.com and see what other people say from their testimonials about what their experience like. So, like I said, I'm going to be recommending somebody close to me use this service, because they can't get out. They can't talk to somebody. They can't go out and do therapy in person like they probably would in a normal time. So they are going to go check out BetterHelp. And so can our listeners, because we have a special deal. If you want to start living a happier life today, and it is possible, even if we're isolating, I think it is possible to work through some of these things and have a better, more fulfilling life, even with all the limitations we have right now. You can get 10% off by visiting BetterHelp. Again, that's BetterHelp.com/smartgirl. That will give you 10% off your first month. So every little bit helps right now. But, if you don't have your mental health, you don't have anything. So it's worth making that investment. You can join over 800,000 people who are taking charge of their mental health. Again, that is BetterHelp, HELP.com/smartgirl. So go, don't suffer, go get the help you need, and come out of this mess, this whole isolation thing, better than when you went in, and that'll be a good thing. So a great service to have during this time, would you say, at Fingers Malloy?
Absolutely. Between not being able to leave your house like you want to, and not being able to go see a doctor or a therapist because of social distancing and so many of these offices being closed, this is a great service. And also, if you are someone who's always felt like that you wanted to talk to someone, if you needed to talk to someone, but it made you nervous, especially if you have anxiety, it's not the easiest thing in the world to make an appointment and then go to a therapist's office. It's nice to be able to talk to someone in the comfort of your home, of your own home. So it's a fantastic service.
Yes, it's the service, and why not take this time to work on yourself, even if you're not like having a huge anxiety issue. What if it's something that's just something you want to work on for a long time? What better time than this, right? I think we're all going to have a few more weeks at least of a little extra time on our hands, and talking to somebody who isn't directly involved in your situation. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you're trying to, talk it out with somebody that you live with, of course, that's a good idea. But somebody that's that third party that kind of can not have the emotional attachment, I think that's a great idea, and it's great advice. And the therapists and counselors have experience in a broad range of issues. So go check them out, folks. So do you think we should talk about some Gen Xish-ish stuff?
Absolutely. What are we tackling this week, Terry?
Well, this week we're going to talk movies, but there was one thing. I follow a couple nostalgia, I guess, Twitter feeds, and one of the things that has nothing to do with movies, but I thought would be interesting to ask you about, is one day this past week was the 35th anniversary of the release of New Coke. And I'm wondering if you remember New Coke and if you ever tasted it.
I clearly remember the stink from the New Coke launch and how absolutely angry Coke drinkers were. They wanted their classic Coke. But I don't remember the New Coke flavor. For a while there, was it bad?
It was like a light version of it almost. It was a cola, definitely a cola, but it just didn't have that little whatever that makes Coca-Cola so great. And I remember this because back in the day, when there was more freedom for high schoolers at Bishop Dennis J. O'Connell High School, they had a Coke machine. So I do remember that because I had a wonderful diet as a young teenager and would get a Coke every day. So then it was stocked with New Coke. So I remember it, and I didn't hate it, but it just wasn't as good. It was just missing the secret sauce in there. It's like, I'm sure everybody could live the rest of their life with RC Cola, but why would you want to? It's not the thing that made them. So it was a huge thing. It was one of those times where I realized the power of the consumer's voice in making change in the world because people did not like it. And for a long time, they brought regular Coke back and they had both of them. And then I think that's it. There just was no comparison. I think New Coke just went quietly out and just never to come back. But it's so stupid. It's like, why would you do that? Why would Coca-Cola, the preeminent American brand, do something so boneheaded?
You think what they should have done is just come out with New Coke to begin with. Hey, we've got a new Coke flavor, but keep the old Coke. And maybe they could have gotten some more consumers, but at the end of the day, they would probably just be competing against themselves. So,
but back then we didn't. I mean, we were deprived. We had nothing back then. Like, now they have those machines where you can get any flavor. I mean, if you can ever go to a restaurant again at a self-serve place, those ones where you can get Coke, but you can make it orange or you can make it raspberry. Or we had no options back then. So it's almost like you can have one brand. You can have Coke or you can have Diet Coke and that's it. Like you couldn't have, there was no, cherry vanilla Coke. We didn't have anything. It was rough.
It's amazing that we survived, man. Terry.
Those
really.
Mid-80s, yeah. I mean... Although we did have Coca-Cola machines in our high schools and not this what my daughters, well, not my daughters, but I guess my sons, my daughters did go to this high school. At their high school, they lock them. You can access them before school and after school, but not during school. Like, what the hell difference does that make? But whatever. I guess that's how we're, controlling our children these days.
Yeah, I think back to my high school lunch every day, and we had the pop machines. So I would get a can of Mountain Dew. Yeah, and then
not pop.
Yes, pop. So I'd get a can of pop, and then our cafeteria, they made these huge cheese pretzels that was basically it was like homemade cheese bread with was huge kosher salt servings on top of it, and then a cinnamon roll. So every day I'd have a cheese pretzel, a cinnamon roll, and a Mountain Dew. I can't understand why I have a weight problem, Terry.
But you probably didn't then.
Well, no.
And that's the thing?
I was 6'3" when I graduated. The only reason why I know is because I played baseball and I had to take a physical before baseball season. I graduated from high school. I was 6'3" and I weighed 163 pounds.
Oh my God.
Fueled on cheese pretzels, cinnamon rolls, and Mountain Dew.
stats. My son is 17. He's not that tall, but he eats every hour on the basically on the hour, because I hear him at 1 a.m. down in the kitchen. Like, I think he has to get like, and I know you're growing and all that, but it's amazing. Like, he does not put on weight. He must eat 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
He has no fat on him. It's amazing. Right. It's the most amazing thing.
And then college hits, and holy cow. then the weight starts.
Yeah, again, in the 20s, it's not quite the same, but yeah, same thing. Diet. I would have regular Coke, and I was huge on the Hostess products back then, and it no problem. Ate all the crap in the world, and it was not a problem. Yeah. It was so good. But yeah, I thought that it's fun to follow that Twitter, because every once in a while, Well, another thing was that Valerie Bertinelli turned 61. I was like, damn, girl, she's holding on all right.
We're all getting old. It's so depressing. Like, a couple of weeks ago, Al Kaline died, and for people in Michigan, that was a big deal. He was Mr. Tiger. He played right field for the Detroit Tigers, and he came out of high school from the Baltimore area, Terry.
Lovely Baltimore area.
Right. And out of high school, started playing professional baseball, and by 20, he won the batting title in the American League. And he is with the Tigers for over 50 years, and he passed away. And so Jeff Daniels, the actor, is a big Tigers fan. So he wrote a song about Al Kaline, and it was
great.
Oh, it was very nice and touching. And the local television station WDIV in Detroit, they made a music video that went along with it, and it was very nice. It was a tribute. And the thing that really struck me was just a couple of days earlier, I had watched, because I too, we're craving sports, and I really miss baseball, and so I went down a YouTube rabbit hole and started watching old Tiger clips from Tiger Stadium. Still to this day, I love Tiger Stadium more than Wrigley Field. And there was a video of Jeff Daniels walking around Tiger Stadium in the 90s, and seeing him now, he's like in his 60s. God bless him. But, comparing it to the mid-90s, like, oh, man, he looks so young. We're all getting so old. It's so depressing.
It's when people our age start looking old. There's a YouTuber I watch, and she was like, and here's my husband. He was born in blah, blah, blah. He's literally like 2 years older than me. Like, holy crap, that dude's old. Like, but he's probably would think the same of me. Like, oh, yeah, she's past seeing the better days, which is absolutely true. But yeah, we have too much time to think about these things. We need to get back to regular life and get busy, where we don't realize until like every once in a while that we're getting old. We don't have time to worry about it on a regular basis. But yeah,
this show is really uplifting, Terry.
The white hair that's coming in is insane.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Is it not uplifting?
I feel like we're being a couple of Debbie Downers here.
Well, we can talk some fun stuff. We can talk 80s movies. Is there any 80s movies that just stand out to you as like just the best of the 80s, or just summarizes or like encapsulates what was the best about the 80s?
Well, I mean, listen, I was a teenager in the 80s, so I'm not going to be pointing to movies like Dead Poets Society and say, oh, that was my
Oh,
favorite.
No. There are people our age who love that movie, and they all went to Yale.
Oh,
like,
no.
Oh, yes, this is very similar to my experience.
Well, I know you get that a lot in the D.C. area, Terry, but I don't run into too many Yale graduates in Central India.
All I'm saying is I know people who got a lot out of Dead Poet Society, which was a great performance by Robin Williams. I won't say it wasn't, but I didn't quite take to it like some people did.
Oh, the whole seize the day. What was it? Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Yes. You gotta stand up on your desk and scream it out.
Terry, I watched that movie, and it changed my life for 2 days.
It changed you forever. You
for 2 days.
That you wanted to teach in an all-boys school.
Yes. Oh, I seized the day for at least 36 hours, and then I went.
Carpe diem.
Then I went back to watching Friday night videos with a bag of Doritos.
Was Porky's the 80s?
Yes.
Because it's not on any list that I found of the best movies from the 80s. I'm going to tell you that.
That's a shocker.
But I know that it was popular.
No, when I think of 80s movies, I think of oh, Lethal Weapon. Well, look, I was a teenage boy.
I know.
The Rocky
Oh, that's
sequels,
true.
Ghostbusters. But here's the thing with Ghostbusters. I really enjoyed Ghostbusters, and I think if I went back and watched it, I would still get a chuckle out of it. But that's one of those movies that I'm really upset that they did a remake.
Oh, and they're remaking the remakes and remakes of the
Yeah.
remakes of the remakes. They just can't leave it alone.
Right. But then there are some movies that they keep making them, and you think to yourself, really, did we really in 2019 need another Rambo movie? Did that really need to be made? 79-year-old.
My husband went to see it, so apparently, yes.
Well, what did he think? Did he tell you
He
his
definitely
opinion?
took my son to see it. It's one of those ones where they came back and said, we have to think about this for a while and see if we like it. And they never came back and told me whether they did or not.
That's
So
all you need to know.
they didn't
That's
know right away whether they liked it. And that's not a good sign, probably.
Yeah. Well, being from Michigan, one of the big movies of the 80s that I loved was Beverly Hills Cop. Eddie Murphy, Detroit cop, goes out to California and shows the California folks a thing or two about law enforcement, Terry. That was
I
a good
did watch
movie.
it. I watched the first one anyway, I think. Pretty sure I
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
So I'm mentioning all the teenage boy movies. I mean, what were some of the, teenage girl? Oh, I've got to run out and see. We mentioned
Uh,
Grease earlier. Was Grease an 80s movie?
no, Grease was 1978. Thank you very
Mm.
much. I know that one.
But there was Grease 2 and Grease
Well,
3, right?
I did watch Grease 2 on Super TV. I did. And our local, because I listen to sports radio, the local morning show is the Sports Junkies, and they're all our age. And somebody mentioned it yesterday about the porn on Super TV. I was like, yeah, somebody else had Super TV. Well, yeah, I mean, I watched all of the Brat Packy kind of thing, the St. Elmo's Fires,
Mm.
the anything with Molly Ringwald, Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, all of those things. Those were. Yeah, those were great. Those were really great. But I know one of the biggest ones, and this is always a weird thing that I've never ever seen E.T. So I don't get any of the
What?
E.T.'s never. So the O'Brien family, and that's my maiden name. I remember like the O'Brien family would get together and go see things as a group. The night that we decided to see E.T., I also was a fan of every slightly hot anybody that was out there in the 80s. So my sister took me to see a tennis match featuring, I don't even know if you're going to know who this is, Yvonne Lendl,
Of course I
who was
remember
a
Yvonne Lendl.
Czechoslovakian tennis player. So
Mhm.
I went to see Yvonne Lendl instead of seeing E.T., and I've never seen it since, so I don't know anything about it.
Well,
But that's my story.
who did Yvonne Lendl play that day?
I have no idea because it was a crappy DC tennis tournament that never got anybody good, but it
Well,
got
wasn't
Yvonne
it
Lendl.
Andre Agassi
No, I
versus
don't
Yvonne
think
Lendl or Jim
so.
Courier or
There's some dude that's from the DC area, and I'm blanking on his name. It was probably someone like that. It was a nobody. It was an absolute nobody that he was playing. He was like the top seed and the top star, and there was nobody else in the tournament. He probably got paid a ton of money to be in it, but I got to see him in a tennis stadium. It was so
wow. Living
Yvonne
your best
Lendl.
life.
I was. So I never saw E.T., which is obviously probably one of the biggest movies of the 80s.
Well, you do know that E.T. was in the theater more than one day, right? You could have gone and seen it on a
Well,
different occasion.
I didn't have a driver's license, and I could
Oh.
only go if somebody would take me. So, and if they'd already all seen it, they weren't going to go see it a second time. And I don't know, I've never really I'm not big on aliens, even if they're adorable. I'm just not big on aliens. So but I know like recently, like over Christmas, they did some revisiting where E.T. came back and visited the grown-up version of Elliot. And I watched that. I was like, this is great, but I've never actually seen the movie.
Well, I believe didn't they introduce Reese's Pieces at the same time that movie was
I thought so.
released?
I think that is the case.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
remember
Reese's
that.
Pieces.
We have some in our house right now, just to let you know.
Yeah.
I'm
You
gonna
got the
scroll
Easter
through.
candy raid.
The Easter candy on sale. So Steel Magnolias was one I still love to this day. That was probably one of the early Julia Roberts roles. So funny. I know you can quote it. You could do a quote along, right? For Steel Magnolias.
Of course. Speaking of Julia Roberts, you brought up Molly Ringwald earlier. You often you have to think that she has to wonder what her career would have been like if she would have taken, the original person to be to take the Julia Roberts role in Pretty Woman.
Was that offered to her?
Yeah, it was written for Molly Ringwald.
No, that's weird. She
turned it down, I believe.
That's really weird. I just wouldn't have. No, that's terrible. She was kind of donezo by then anyway. Like, she kind of petered out. Like, she had the Pretty in Pink, Breakfast Club, which also, of course, it was the movie of our generation. 16 Candles, which was great. Obviously, there was something for everybody in 16 Candles, so you had to have seen it.
Oh, 16 Candles? I did see that once, but it didn't speak to me like some of those other teenagers.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know that.
Jake Ryan did not speak to you?
No,
in any way, shape, or form.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's the story for all of us regular chicks out there. A hope that like the hot guy with the Porsche is gonna like you. Like, it was great. It doesn't really ever happen that way, but it gave us all some hope. But I don't see her being Pretty Woman. That one's a little weird. But yeah, Steel Magnolias was at the end of the 80s, but such a good movie.
No, it may not have been written for her, but I know that I believe it was originally offered to Molly Ringwald, and she turned it down.
Another one that I know you love is When Harry Met Sally. I love that movie. It was okay. You are a big Billy Crystal fan.
I'm not, but okay. We can roll with that. I liked him in Soap.
You know who's funny? When Harry Met Sally was what's her name? She's dead
Meg Ryan.
now. No.
Oh,
Carrie
Meg
Fisher.
Ryan's still alive. Yeah.
Carrie Fisher plays Meg Ryan's friend. She's so funny in it. She's so good in that. That's before, like, I mean, I know she had substance abuse issues, and she kind of like started looking a little different. It's before she looked healthy and great, and she was so funny in that. It's true.
That movie must have spoke to you because
it spoke to me. I love that movie. I don't know why I love it.
I saw it once. What was the movie that Billy Crystal starred in with Gregory Hines, where there were two cops getting ready to retire, and
I don't know.
Oh man, now I'm gonna have to look that up.
Gregory Hines and something with Mikhail Baryshnikov.
Was he?
Isn't there White Knights or something like? It was when like Russia was still bad, so it was great. They were the best bad guys, but it was Mikhail Baryshnikov.
Wow, no, I don't remember that movie.
All right, explain this one to me because I've watched it because my husband loves it.
Oh, Running Scared.
Loves this.
Running Scared, by the way, was the name of that movie. It was a buddy cop film with Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal. That was my favorite Billy Crystal movie.
Well, I think he's fun. I think he's funny in When Harry Met Sally. I think it's funny. But it's very dated humor but it's still funny. It's still funny.
Yep.
This one, I honestly don't get the appeal, but I get it because you probably don't understand why I like some of the things. But why? Why Caddyshack? Why?
It was brilliant.
Is it brilliant, though? I've watched it. And my husband's like rolling on the floor like in hysterics over it. And I'm just like, that is mildly amusing, but what is so great about it? Is it
Rodney Dangerfield? It begins and ends with Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh, is he that great?
Rodney Dangerfield was such a good comedian. If you go back to the old Johnny Carson clips of him doing his bits and then sitting next to Johnny, and then just for 6 minutes, Johnny doesn't say a word. He'll just say, "Oh, really? Yeah, Rodney. Oh, yeah, that's tough. Yeah." Mm-hmm. And then Rodney just joke. So I'm a huge Caddyshack fan. I thought Chevy Chase was overrated. I loved Fletch, and the Fletch Lives. But then after that, it was
Fletch had the chick that married was Bruce Springsteen's first wife. Just putting that out there, Julianne Phillips.
Yeah, she was beautiful.
Yeah.
But Bill Murray was fantastic in Caddyshack.
But was he? No.
Yes. Listen, just like Steel Magnolias did not speak to me, I can understand why
Okay.
you aren't running to Netflix right now with the bucket of popcorn saying, I gotta see Caddyshack again. It
Well, I
appealed
mean,
to.
it's, dudes have movies that they love. Caddyshack's one of them, and that other stupid one. What is the stupid one where Point Break? There's a couple
Oh, yeah.
Swaze movies that are apparently in there, like Roadhouse, that are just.
Roadhouse. Yeah.
And I don't get
Yeah.
that. I mean, I do not get that. That there's nothing great about that.
Well, I for the first time in many years, uh, last weekend, my 16-year-old daughter likes the same type of stupid slapstick humor that I like. So, she enjoyed Airplane when we watched
Well, I like
Airplane.
Airplane. That's a
Well,
classic.
The Naked Gun was released in 1988, and I absolutely loved some of those Leslie Nielsen
Yeah, that's
spoofs.
true. I can agree on that one.
We watched The Naked Gun, and then The Naked Gun, a lot of people don't know, was actually a spin-off from the original TV series Police Squad that they did 6 episodes on ABC, and it got canceled.
I kind of remember that.
So we watched all 6 episodes of Police Squad. Those are on YouTube, and I highly recommend if you like the Naked Gun movies, but you have not seen the Police Squad shows, go to YouTube and watch Police Squad because they're hysterical and they still kind of hold up.
I sort of remember that. Hey, to go back to Rodney Dangerfield, one I did like from him from the 80s was Back to School.
Yes.
I thought that was very funny. And of course, I had Sam Kinison, which is also funny.
Uh, Sam Sam Kinison was brilliant, and it's one of those really sad stories where here you got a guy that was just a brilliant comedic mind and was coked out for a lot of years. He finally gets his life together and gets married and then dies in a car accident because a drunk driver hit him.
It's crazy because I remember because back in the day, everyone listened to Howard Stern. I don't know if everyone listened to Howard Stern, but he was on simulcast on a few Eastern Seaboard, I guess is the correct term. I don't know why I'm using that. So he was on in D.C., New York, and Philadelphia. So he was on here locally where I was. So I listened to a lot of Howard Stern back in the day. And Sam Kinison was on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so I appreciated him. Remember he did the Wild Thing remake with a bunch
Oh
of
yeah,
like,
with Jessica Hahn.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about all that. Yeah, but my husband loves him in Back to School. He thinks that's the funniest thing. And I can appreciate Rodney in that one for some reason. The Triple Lindy.
Yeah.
And they're like
So
heckling
good.
with the mirrors, heckling
Yeah.
the divers. That's a pretty good one. I like that one.
It's so good. No, but that reminds me of something off topic. We were just talking about Sam Kinison, and Stevie Ray Vaughan was another one where huge substance abuse problem, finally kicks it and then dies in a helicopter crash.
I remember him dying.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know much about him. I hear way more Stevie Ray Vaughan these days than I ever did back then. But yeah. Yeah, it happens. There's got to be a reason for it, right? There must be something, some takeaway. So another big one that I didn't like from the 80s was Dirty Dancing. I never got into that.
No.
I'm not a huge Swaze fan.
Not even Ghost. You didn't like Ghost. I was told all girls like Ghost.
No, I did not like Ghost. No. But that was a big one. And fun fact, the guy who sings Hungry Eyes, who is that? Eric Carmen? Is that his name? He is a huge conservative, and he follows me on the Twitters.
Oh, nice.
He's he's a huge pro-Trump guy. It's weird because it's always shocking to find out that somebody from the entertainment world has some conservative leanings that they're willing to be vocal about, because I assume that there's a lot of people out there that are conservative leaning but aren't going to come out and say it. I guess he's at such a point in his life where it doesn't matter. It's kind of like James Woods or someone like that. Like, who cares at this point what people think? But yeah, big conservative. I'm like, interesting.
I wonder what kind of career he had after Hungry Eyes. And I'm not, knocking him. God bless. I mean, one more hit than either one of us ever had. But
no clue. But I know that was like the girls my age loved that movie. That loved it, but I wasn't really quite sure about it.
No, that was a date movie.
What about Back to the Future?
Oh, Back to the Future. I mean, listen, I love Back to the Future, but then they went to the well one too many times, didn't they? I mean, Back to the Future 2 was okay. Then you got the Back to the Future 3. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, I stopped them when they were like in the Old West or something. Yeah. Was that right? Like I don't know. But I remember, I didn't see it in the movie theater, but like when you're at the end of the school year when there's nothing to do and teachers just play movies. So I remember that in my senior year of high school, there was nothing to do. So my teacher's like, we're going to play Back to the Future. And that's where I saw it. It was great. Fun times at Catholic school, let me tell you.
See, that's the kind of move I would expect at public school, Terry, not private school.
Best English teacher, Mr. Johnson. He was so great. He was a really good drawer, and he would put up little fun Catholic cartoons he would draw them on the chalkboard. I don't know, just saying that. They were amusing. He was so fun.
Well, I have the top 10 grossing movies of the 80s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right in front of me. You ready for this?
E.T.
E.T. was number 1.
Okay.
Followed by The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was good.
1980. 1983's Return of the Jedi.
That had the Ewoks, right?
I believe so. But don't add me Star Wars fans.
The Ewok
song. The dun 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 dun. No, that's not the song. Yeah, I'm not a big Star Wars guy. More of a Trekkie. 4, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yeah,
1989.
It was a big deal.
One of my favorite movies of all time, the original Batman movie, 1989 release. Who was your favorite Batman?
Is that Michael Keaton as Batman?
That's Michael Keaton.
I don't like any superhero movies, much to the dismay of my husband and all 4 of my children. Yeah. So who are the options? It's Michael Keaton, and then it's definitely not Clooney.
Val Kilmer. Adam West.
Yeah.
And then after that doesn't matter.
And then Christian Bale, obviously, right?
Yeah, I guess.
I think I could go with Michael Keaton, the unlikeliest of them all.
Well, I want to go with Michael Keaton because I enjoyed the Michael Keaton Batman movies. But my problem with the whole Michael Keaton as Batman is I want to believe I want to believe that Batman can kick my ass.
That is the thing.
And you don't look at Michael Keaton and think, he if he punches me, it would hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then, yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, but Affleck, he's 1-2 now, and he's not.
That's true.
Good. I think Bale's probably pretty good, but too serious. Like, I don't want it too serious and dark. That's no fun at all.
That's why Adam West is the best Batman.
Well, that's probably it. Yeah, but not that he was going to be kicking anybody's ass. I mean.
No.
Come on, he was a little flabby in the old outfit there. Wasn't he?
Oh, poor Adam West.
And then what happened to his career? Softcore porn?
What?
Is that what? Yes.
No.
I'm Googling it right now. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I mean, he played himself in Family Guy, and he was brilliant there. But
yes. Things I learned today. Reddit says it's true. In the 80s.
Oh.
It's rated R. Campy comedy with some boobs in it. That's what somebody described one of the things. There you go.
Oh, it was rated R? Well, that's not soft porn.
I don't know. Things that are rated R in the 80s are probably
PG now.
I don't know. I don't know which way it goes, whether they're more strict or less strict. I don't know.
Oh. Well, number 6, the original Raiders of the Lost Ark, released in 19.
It was definitely the decade of Harrison Ford, wasn't it?
Yeah. 7, Back to the Future. We already mentioned it. Number 8, a movie we have not talked about, Top Gun.
Huh. Yeah. I mean, I'm really a Tom Cruise guy. I mean, I guess he debuted in Risky Business, right? That was his first big. But he was in Taps if we could talk about Taps for a minute, that's got to be something we can all agree on because it had Timothy Hutton. I don't remember who else was in it, but I know it had Timothy Hutton and Tom Cruise in it. That's probably the first time I ever saw Tom Cruise. I'm not much of a Tom Cruise fan. I mean, I like his acting. I never thought he was hot. So I never thought like, oh my God, Maverick is so great.
Listen, I wasn't a huge Top Gun guy, but what do you think about the Top Gun remake that's coming out?
I will watch it, is what I think. But, I mean, the guy, like, for instance, Val Kilmer has not aged well at all.
Poor Val.
Have you seen Val Kilmer? And I do think he's had some bouts with maybe like thyroid cancer or something, which certainly doesn't help. But he was pretty much a hottie, dating Cher back in the day, I think, right?
I must have missed the.
You were sleeping through the 80s. My God.
The Cher Kilmer years.
I will watch
listen,
it.
I've been broken up ever since she and Sonny Bono broke up.
Well,
I just
it's hard to get over something like that. Top Gun was good because I liked Kelly McGillis. I thought, she was. I liked her for some reason. I don't know why. I just did. She was also in that movie where she was Amish.
I don't remember that, but you couldn't get
Harrison
away from the Top Gun soundtrack. You had Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins, right? And then Take My Breath Away by Berlin was the big band.
Look at you! I would have had a hard time naming that band, but you're right. It was a big soundtrack, and it was probably #1 movie for forever.
Mm-hmm. That was released in 1986. Number 9 on the list, Rain Man. No. And then finally,
now we hear stories about what's his name, Hoffman. Things about him.
Oh no, he wasn't part of the whole Weinstein thing, was he?
Some things like that, maybe. Dustin was a little, maybe not great to work with sometimes. That's just what I'm hearing. I mean, it's alleged. It's alleged.
Allegedly,
absolutely.
Don't get us sued and have.
I'm just saying, it's just all these people that were like big deals. I mean, Harrison Ford has stood up, and I don't think anyone said anything, and I don't think Tom Cruise has ever had people accusing him of anything. So not everybody.
Michael J. Fox, Back to the Future 2 rounds out the top 10. That's why I bring him up. So you look at the top 10, and it's sci-fi movies, action adventure. And it's a lot of similar stars, Michael J. Fox, Harrison Ford, and Tom Cruise.
Here's something. Now, it's a normal thing today that actors and actresses will star on TV, they'll be on anything. But back in our day, that wasn't really the case. Like, you were a movie actress, and you did not do TV. You were TV. You wanted to do movies, but it didn't always work out that way. But Michael J. Fox was able to do both of those. But do you remember that? Like, when you really sucked, then you went on Fantasy Island. Like, when your career was over, you went on The Love Boat and Fantasy Island.
Battle of the Network Stars.
Yeah, you would. Like, even now, like, if Julia Roberts does TV, it's like, wow, well, she's what? But, I mean, it's completely changed. The whole landscape of entertainment has changed since then. But that was a thing. Now, someone we haven't mentioned is Matthew Broderick. And of course you'll say Ferris Bueller, but of course I would say the movie was War Games that he was in. Did you ever watch that one? Shall we play a game?
With Dabney Coleman.
Oh yeah, good one.
I liked War Games.
Ali Sheedy.
Yes. Oh, I loved Ali Sheedy back in the day. And we haven't even mentioned The Breakfast Club.
Not really, no.
But no, that was I wasn't a big Ferris Bueller guy. I watched it once. Fast Times at Ridgemont High is another one that saw it once.
A great one.
Yeah, saw it once. Great. But that's another movie where if you look back on it, do you think that it stands up? It holds up, or are you going to look at that and you're not going to?
Yeah, there's some bad themes in that one.
Well, I know, I get it, but would it still be funny? If you're laughing at it the privacy of your own home, like if you're watching Blazing Saddles, which could never be made today, there are some movies where you're like, okay, that even some of 16 Candles, some of the jokes in 16 Candles, it could never.
The Donger is always going to be funny.
Yeah, and it would never be in a movie today.
Well, I don't think Fast Times at Ridgemont High, at least for me, was funny so much as it was just like really, pushing the envelope in some areas. And that
I'm
gave us Phoebe Cates, right?
Yes. Oh, another
Yeah,
one.
I mean,
Oh,
amazing.
good
Yeah.
Lord. But there are a lot of movies that I'm surprised that aren't in the top 20. There's Twins was a big one. But in the top 10, I can't believe there aren't any Arnold Schwarzenegger movies.
So what did he have then? Did he have Predator, or is
Well, the
that
Terminator?
Terminator's not in the top 10.
No.
See, I remember movies by like who the cute guy. So there was the cute, I don't know his name. Was he John Connors? No, that's the kid. Who is he? Who's Michael Biehn, the cute guy?
There must be a mistake. I cannot believe the top 30 highest grossing movies of the 80s and Terminator isn't on it.
Somebody's miscounted.
Yeah, but Fatal Attraction you can't tell me Fatal Attraction brought in more money than any of the Terminator movies. Did you watch Fatal Attraction?
Yeah, that was a good one. That was good. That should scare most people to not have an affair, but it didn't, so.
The other one that was really good by Michael Douglas, I feel like, but maybe critics didn't, was The War of the Roses. You remember The War
That was brutal. I did watch that. That was hard to watch.
Oh, that was hilarious.
That was hard. Yeah. That was difficult. What was the one that he did with Kathleen Turner? When the going gets tough.
Oh.
Romancing the Stone.
Yes, Romancing the Stone.
I think that was pretty good, right?
The famous scene where they're going down the mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
right.
many good movies in the 80s.
I mean, there was a bunch of stuff like Charlie Sheen became a thing then. He was in
Wall Street.
Well, he was in Ferris Bueller for sure.
Yeah. Wasn't Charlie Sheen in Wall Street?
He was in Wall Street. I had a poster of him. He was in some Vietnam movie. What's the Vietnam movie he was in? Oh, I'm sure it's Oliver Stone.
Oh, I mean, there was Platoon. There was Full Metal Jacket.
It's Platoon. Yeah.
Was it Platoon?
Yeah, he was in Platoon. But I didn't watch the movie. I thought he was cute, and I would put the poster on the wall.
He was also in Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part 2.
Oh, what's the one that Val Kilmer did that was like a spoof that my husband freaking loves it.
The best Val Kilmer movie of all time. It was called Top Secret.
He
Do you know a little German? Yeah, he's right over there.
My husband loves that. There was another one where he was like a genius. Val Kilmer had a weird career in the 80s.
Yeah, he did.
And yeah, then he
teenage movies, Weird Science, Mannequin. Like a ton of weird.
Mannequin. Yeah, I remember Mannequin. Yeah.
See, that's a whole genre of movies you just don't see. The movies that were specifically made for.
Are those crickets? Are those crickets in your yard?
Can you hear the crickets in the back?
I can hear the crickets. Yes.
Wow. Smoking. The ages of like 14 to 21. Those movies, that they just don't make the 16 Candles type movies anymore.
No, because everything now has to be woke. It has to be, it's got to be a transgender with a, tricultural somebody. It can't just be a natural story about something. It has to have a message, and it's got to be some. Am I being cranky?
A little, but that's okay.
Well, I mean, I have teenagers, and so I know, and I've got a 22-year-old, so I've been in this area for a while now, and knowing what they want. Some of it's wholesome and great, like camp rock with the Jonas Brothers and Demi Lovato and all that. But a lot of the movies that come out, they're just so social justice-y and dystopian, and I hate dystopian crap. I do not like that. So it is like there's no just. It seems like it kind of peaked and went out of style. 90s kind of kept it up. The 90s, there were still a lot of great movies like that. And then it's just went away. In the 2000s, we got super serious and we had to send messages. And, the poor self-esteem of the kids. We can't say anything we can't do movies that will hurt their self-esteem and make them feel bad about themselves. So it's terrible because they used to be great. Teen movies were great.
Yeah, no, they don't make them
anymore.
anymore.
To us.
No, they don't make them anymore. Well, now I feel like we need to wrap this up, Terry, because I feel like the wildlife is going to be taking me over. You can hear the crickets in the background.
I do.
Wait till you hear the bullfrogs. They're going to be out in a little bit.
Oh yeah, we've been talking for a good long time anyway. So yeah, thank you. I could talk about you know me. I could talk about the '80s forever.
I know.
So much fun. Well, yes, good time to wrap up. Then we'll have to think of another good topic for the next episode. But thank you, of course, to BetterHelp.com for being our sponsor this week. People, if you're struggling, listeners, if you're having some sort of issue and you need someone to talk to that's not the plant in the corner or, you know, your 12-year-old daughter, go check out BetterHelp.com. Of course, BetterHelp.com/smartgirl. You can get 10% off your first month. No reason not to do it. I get some help now. No need to suffer. You're suffering enough from what's going on. Get yourself some help. Thank you to Ricochet, of course, for being our home on the internet for this podcast. Go to ricochet.com and check them out. They have other great podcasts that we love being, you know, part of that network. Fingers Malloy, you are at fingersmalloy.com, I presume.
That's me. That's where I'm at. And you can check out all the podcasts I'm affiliated with there. The Enough Already podcast, the Snark Factor podcast. That's my show that I do out of WAAM 1600 AM 92.7 FM in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And of course, I produce and am part of the team over at the Eat, Drink, Smoke podcast hosted by Tony Katz of Tony Katz Today and Tony Katz The Morning News in Indiana. So lots of things going on.
I know. Nothing new to add, huh? Not yet.
We may have an announcement soon of a new project because I'm not, you know, Cameron Gray calls me, a good friend of ours calls me the king of small media because I'm apparently affiliated with 32 podcasts.
There needs to be more video. If you're going to be small media, we're going to have to add video at some point. The problem is that I lay here on my bed and podcast and it's not pretty. It's not great. I am in a sitting position at the beginning of the podcast, and I slouch down. And by the end, I'm just laying here like a big loser.
You need to sit outside with nature. I've got a bunny rabbit right on my patio right now. So
that sounds. I love nature. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a big nature person. I love being outside. No, I don't. I'm an inside kind of person. Yeah, cool. Next time I'll think about that. But we do need to do video. Video's a thing.
Okay, we'll get on that.
You don't do video.
No.
We got to figure that out. Any smart people that are listening, let us know how to do video. I know it involves maybe Zoom, but I'm not sure it involves Zoom. It might not. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet, but I think video would be a good thing to add. And of course, you guys can listen to this podcast anywhere that the fine podcasts are carried. iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, everything. iHeartRadio, I think. I think that's part of it. So please give us a follow, subscribe, tell other people about it. There's a lot of Gen Xers out there. I mean, not tons. We're not the big generation, but there's some of us out there. And then go over to facebook.com/smartgirlpolitics. That's where we're hanging out. So, join us over there. Join the conversation. And I think that's it for this week. So stay healthy, everybody, and we will talk to you on the next episode. Bye.